Have you ever wondered how a romance can shine bright enough to light up Hollywood, and then keep smoldering long after the spotlight should have faded? Tonight, we uncover the love stories that clung on for decades, even as endless bottles of scotch and champagne chipped away at their legends. You'll hear how careers stalled, scripts were scrapped, and reputations drowned under the weight of just one more drink. Buckle up and hit that subscribe button. The truth behind these lingering passions is as intoxicating as it is heartbreaking. Spencer Tracy and Katherine Heppern. The first time Katherine Hepburn saw Spencer Tracy on the MGM lot in 1942, she famously quipped, "I'm afraid I'm too tall for you." He stared back with bloodshot Irish green eyes and replied, "Don't worry, I'll cut you down to size." Thus began a clandestine affair that lasted 26 storm-filled years. Most nights ended at Chasen's or the Polo Lounge, where Tracy emptied highball after highball until he could barely stand. Hepburn, who drank only sparingly, wrapped coats around his shoulders, hauled him into cabs, and rewrote lines to hide his morning-after slurs. The studio covered up blackouts, fistfights, and an infamous scene on Adam's Rib, where Tracy disappeared for 3 straight days on a whiskey bender. Yet Hepburn stayed, convincing directors to shoot around his hangovers and even footing hotel bills when insurers balked. As Tracy's alcoholism deepened, his once electric performances dulled. The boyish grin faded into a tired frown, and plum rolls trickled away. Friends begged Hepburn to leave, but she whispered, "He's my sacred responsibility." When Tracy died in 1967, his last words to her were simply, "Kath, I'm tired." Her career soared again afterward, but she never stopped visiting the little bench at Forest Lawn, proof that love can outlast reason, sobriety, and even stardom itself. Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. On the Cleopatra set in 1962, Richard Burton leaned across his throne and offered Elizabeth Taylor a sip from his silver flask. The whiskey seared her throat, but the way he said love set her pulse racing. What followed was a volcanic romance, fanned by $30,000 bar tabs, purple bruises hidden under mink, and a pair of weddings that cost more than some countries' GDPs. They bought yachts they never sailed and diamonds the size of gobstoppers, yet neither could quit the bottle or each other. Burton arrived on the Sandpiper with a perpetual tremor, slurring takes so badly the director resorted to Frankenstein-cut editing. Taylor's own drinking escalated into hospital detoxes, prompting tabloids to coin the term Liz Lush. Studios gambled on their box office magnetism, but insurance premiums tripled. Producers kept nurses and oxygen tanks on standby. By their second divorce in 1976, Burton's voice, once Shakespearean thunder, had thinned to a rasp and Taylor's health spiraled into weight-fluctuating comas. Critics scoffed that the couple's greatest performance was pretending alcohol hadn't devoured their gifts. Decades later, Taylor confessed, "We loved too much, drank too much, and paid too much. But my God, we lived." Their saga endures as a cautionary epic. When passion is poured into a glass, the hangover can last a lifetime. Ava Gardner and Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra's career was flatlining in 1950. Nightclubs half full, Columbia Records ready to drop him. When molten-eyed Ava Gardner sauntered into his life, they eloped to Pennsylvania under moonlight, celebrating with ride chasers that didn't stop for 6 years. Their love was equal parts aria and bar brawl. Gardner firing a shotgun over Sinatra's head after a jealous tirade, Sinatra cracking mirrors in Madrid hotel suites while swigging Jack Daniels straight from the bottle. The daily headline drama cost Sinatra his MGM contract, and Gardner's own reputation plummeted from goddess to gin-soaked hellcat. Yet those same bruising nights fueled art. Sinatra's raw pain landed him From Here to Eternity, an Oscar-winning comeback he admitted he owed to Ava's heartbreak. Gardner, meanwhile, walked off sets after 3-day benders, forcing studio rewrites and sinking what might have been her defining roles. By 1957, doctors warned Sinatra that another week of drinking could shred his vocal cords. Gardner, filming The Sun, also rises in Spain and downing sherry for breakfast, signed the divorce papers with shaky hands. The relationship was over, but neither truly recovered. Sinatra poured the ache into torch songs like I'm a fool to want you, while Gardner spent lonely Andalusian nights replaying reel-to-reel tapes of his voice. Their love lasted too long, long enough to revive one career, ruin another, and leave both forever haunted by the bottles they never managed to cork. Laurence Olivier and Vivian Leigh. Night fell over Covent Garden in 1936 when Laurence Olivier slipped backstage and found Vivian Leigh perched on a costume trunk, sipping brandy from a china teacup. Their first kiss tasted of grease paint and cognac, and it detonated two separate marriages in one dazzling blast. For 20 years they reigned as theater's golden couple, Sir and Lady O. But after every standing ovation came a private storm. Olivier soothed performance nerves with scotch. Leigh cloaked her budding bipolar swings in sherry, a habit she called her liquid understudy. During Romeo and Juliet on Broadway, Leigh arrived at rehearsals, giggling, glassy-eyed, having swapped breakfast for champagne. Olivier matched her pace, turning up late to shoots with a flask tucked in his frock coat, insisting it was for the voice. Studios adored their chemistry but dreaded their binges. An entire week of Fire Over England had to be reshot when Leigh slurred lines, and Olivier's hangover tremors ruined swordplay. Doctors pleaded with Leigh to quit drinking as her manic episodes deepened, but Olivier could never say no when she pressed a crystal tumbler into his hand, whispering, "Just keep me company, Larry." By 1960, her illness and their combined alcoholism had shredded nerves and bank accounts alike. Olivier filed for divorce, signing papers through a blur of gin-wet tears. Their tragedy proved that even the grandest love story can drown in an ocean poured one shot at a time. Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall. When 19-year-old Lauren Bacall whispered, "You know how to whistle, don't you?" to Humphrey Bogart in 1944's To Have and Have Not, audiences felt a jolt, but no one heard the clink of two martini glasses off camera. Bogey, twice her age and already famous for bourbon-tinted growls, courted the ingenue with midnight drives to Malibu roadhouses, teaching her the art of two-finger pours. Their marriage became Hollywood's most quoted fairy tale, yet liquor lurked in every frame. Bacall gamely matched her husband, sip for sip, afraid a sober tongue might spoil the magic. On The Big Sleep, they rehearsed bedroom scenes over rye and soda, so by dawn their voices rasped like gravel. Bogart's liver ached, Bacall's eyes puffed, and Warner Brothers quietly padded editing schedules to hide the fatigue. As the years rolled on, Bogart's cancer warnings went unheeded. He believed bourbon killed germs. Bacall, now a mother, tried to taper off, but habit clung like wet wool. Friends noticed her once crisp laugh slurring at parties. When Bogart died in 1957, a glass of whiskey rested on the bedside table. The final prop in a love story critics said lasted long enough to turn legend into lesson. Bacall fought to reclaim her career, but casting agents whispered about Bogey's widow with the bar cart passed. She eventually conquered Broadway, yet in memoirs confessed that every pouring sound still summoned his ghost. Their tale proves even classic romance can outstay its welcome once the bottle starts directing the script. Judy Garland and Sid Luft. Judy Garland met producer Sid Luft in 1950, the same year MGM dropped her for Exhaustion, studio code for pills, panic, and rivers of gin. Luft promised to be her anchor. Instead, they strapped life vests of whiskey to each other and leapt back into showbiz's storm. They married in a Las Vegas chapel scented with stale beer, then barnstormed nightclubs where Judy's encore was often a collapse into Sid's arms. To steady her nerves, doctors prescribed Seconal. Luft chased each pill with scotch, calling it courage juice before negotiating contracts. Their self-financed film, A Star is Born, became an on-set carnival of rewrites and reshoots when Judy's shakes made close-ups impossible. Luft covered delays with barroom boasts, yet every extra day ballooned costs, and Warner Brothers trimmed the picture down, slicing Judy's Oscar hopes along with it. By the early 1960s, the couple was touring cheap cabarets. Judy belted Over the Rainbow through bourbon crack chords while Luft counted dwindling ticket stubs. She'd stagger off stage, vomit backstage, then beg for a nightcap to settle the stomach. Their love lingered 12 tumultuous years until divorce papers arrived with the morning hangover. Garland's voice never fully healed. Luft's producing reputation sank, studios labeling him uninsurable. Years later, Luft wrote a memoir insisting, "Our love saved her as much as it destroyed us." It lasted too long. Long enough to show that sometimes the only thing harder than quitting the bottle is quitting each other. Bing Crosby and Dixie Lee. When rising band singer Bing Crosby met vivacious actress-dancer Dixie Lee in 1929, their whirlwind courtship ended in a Reno wedding faster than a radio jingle. Headlines gushed over Hollywood's golden-throated newlyweds, but honeymoon nights quickly dissolved into martini-shaded dawns. Crosby, still touring speakeasies with the Rhythm Boys, matched Dixie drink for drink, partly to keep pace, partly to quiet performance jitters. Their Beverly Hills mansion became a late-night jam session. Bing riffing on piano, Dixie passing silver flasks, laughter sliding gradually into slurred arguments. Studio chiefs urged Bing to control the sauce, lest sponsors ditch his NBC variety show. But he brushed them off, boasting, "Booze oils the pipes." In truth, morning recordings demanded dozens of retakes as his velvet baritone grew ragged. Meanwhile, Dixie's promising screen career with Fox evaporated. Directors labeled her a liability after repeated call-time no-shows. By 1934, gossip columns chronicled Dixie's hospital detoxes and Bing's bar fight scuffles, eroding his clean-cut image. Friends urged them to divorce, yet each promised to sober up for the other, only to relapse together by Christmas. Dixie finally stepped back from Hollywood, retreating to raise their 4 sons, while Bing conquered radio and film. But the distance didn't cure her. She drank alone, unseen, until cancer and cirrhosis claimed her in 1952 at just 41. Crosby's grief-ridden sobs at her bedside exposed the price of their too-long love. A ruined career for Dixie, a lifetime of guilt for Bing, and lullabies forever tinged with whiskey sorrow. Errol Flynn and Lily Deita, swashbuckling romance that sank in rum. French actress Lily Deita spotted a cocky Tasmanian named Errol Flynn fencing shirtless on the Captain Blood lot in 1934 and decided, "That pirate is mine." They wed within months, sealing vows with shots of Jamaican rum that would become the soundtrack of their tempestuous 11-year marriage. Flynn, already infamous for hoisting flagons between takes, dragged Lily on globe-trotting binges from Paris jazz cellars to Rangoon opium dens. When the adventures of Robin Hood wrapped, he celebrated by swimming the length of the Chateau Marmont pool, brandy bottle in hand, while Lily laughed from the diving board clutching champagne. Yet laughter turned lethal. Flynn's blackout escapades spawned tabloid trials, and Lily's nightly nerve tonics spiraled into shrieking, jealous rages that shattered crystal and contracts alike. Warner Brothers paid hush money to extras injured during Flynn's barroom swordplay. Insurers added intoxication clauses that docked his salary every time he missed a call sheet. Lily's own offers dried up, directors unwilling to gamble on an actress who arrived smelling of cognac and marital bruises. Their court battles dragged longer than their honeymoon phase, culminating in a 1942 divorce settlement. So bitter, Flynn joked, "She took me for all the rum in the Caribbean." Both careers limped afterward. Flynn aged from dashing rogue to swollen caricature, and Lily vanished to a French villa, sipping quietly while press forgot her name. Their love lasted too long, long enough to concede that not even Hollywood's greatest adventurer can outrun the undertow of a bottle. William Holden and Brenda Marshall, the Sunset Boulevard of endless nightcaps. In 1941, fresh-faced contract player William Holden fell for luminous starlet Brenda Marshall in a studio commissary line, trading jokes over chocolate malts laced, unbeknownst to eager reporters, with bourbon. They married before Stalag 17 made him a household name, vowing to stay grounded by sharing a nightly "we dram." Success multiplied their bar tabs. Holden wrapped Sunset Boulevard celebrations at Musso and Frank's Dawn After Dawn, while Brenda, longing for roles beyond ingenues, matched his pace to keep the connection alive. The couple purchased a Palm Springs hideaway they called Rancho Relaxo, but the retreat functioned more as an unending cocktail lounge. Holden mixing old fashions at breakfast, Brenda topping them off by lunch. Directors tolerated Holden's morning sweats because his on-camera brilliance persisted, until staggered lines marred the bridges at Tokori, forcing costly overdubs. Brenda's own auditions dwindled. Whispers spread that her charisma dimmed behind glazed eyes. She focused on charity galas, yet champagne fountains followed her like loyal press agents. By the 1960s, separation rumors ignited, but divorce paperwork lay unsigned for over a decade, as neither could sever 30-proof memories. Holden's humanitarian ambitions with wildlife documentaries clashed with late-night binges abroad. In 1981, he died alone in Santa Monica after slipping and bleeding out, a tragedy compounded by blood alcohol 3 times the legal limit. Brenda, devastated, withdrew entirely from public life, her screen legacy eclipsed by the cautionary tale of a marriage that nursed love and liquor until both careers collapsed. Their story proves that sometimes the most dangerous stunt in Hollywood isn't leaping from trains. It's believing a marriage can outrun the hangover. Joan Crawford and Francho Tone. They met on the 1933 MGM lot. Joan Crawford, already the studio's steel-eyed queen. Francho Tone, the Broadway intellectual, with a silver flask tucked in his pocket. Crawford wooed him with champagne picnics under Klieg lights, promising she'd never let career trump romance again. Yet once the wedding ring slid on, nightcaps turned into night wars. Tone loved artisanal cocktails. Crawford preferred endless vodka highballs for the nerves. Their Beverly Hills home echoed with toasts that blurred into shouting matches. Neighbors claimed crystals shattered almost nightly. On Dangerous, Crawford arrived puffy-eyed from whiskey tears, begging cameramen for soft filters. Tone stumbled through accents, the director layering extra orchestration to mask slurred dialogue. Gossip columnists salivated as MGM executives wrung their hands. The couple's combined tardiness, ballooned budgets, and insurers revised contracts to dock pay for liquor-related retakes. Crawford clung longer than wisdom advised, terrified a third divorce would tarnish her marquee. Tone, bruised ego soaked in gin, flirted openly on sets, fueling Crawford's jealous binge calls to studio brass. By 1941, the strain showed on screen, her once glossy glamour cracking beneath swollen lids, his boyish charm dulled into weary cynicism. They finally divorced, but the decade-long duel left scars. Tone's leading man trajectory flattened into supporting roles, while Crawford fought a 5-year slump before clawing back with Mildred Pierce. Their union proves even Hollywood's fiercest star can't outshine a bar glass forever. Rita Hayworth and Orson Welles. When Orson Welles sent Rita Hayworth a bouquet the size of a Buick with a note reading, "You'll be my greatest illusion," she fell, heels and all, into his spell. They married in 1943 inside Welles's Hollywood hillside treehouse, christening the vows with chilled martinis. Genius and goddess seemed unstoppable, yet their shared weakness for late-night concoctions turned every brainstorm into a hangover. Welles hosted whiskey-soaked editing parties for the lady from Shanghai, convincing Rita to shear her famous copper locks and bleach them platinum while half-buzzed. An image change that horrified Columbia Pictures and triggered public backlash. Meanwhile, Rita matched him glass for glass to keep pace with his whirlwind brilliance, stumbling through reshoots as the liquor unraveled rehearsed lines. Studios pleaded for sobriety. Welles scoffed, "Boredom is our enemy. Gin is the cure." Their daughter remembered lullabies slurred into bar ballads. Box office returns faltered, Columbia blaming Rita's tired eyes, RKO blaming Welles's boozy auteur delays. By 1947, the marriage crawled on only in telegrams, both too proud to quit, too pickled to fix. Divorce followed, careers diverged. Rita battled typecasting and alcoholic depression. Welles roamed Europe hunting financing, reputation sagging under rumors of bar tab bankruptcies. Later, Rita confessed, "I married a genius, but the bottle made him disappear." Their saga reminds us even cinematic alchemy can't withstand an endless pour. Robert Walker and Jennifer Jones. They were MGM's fresh-faced sweethearts, married in 1939 after giggling through soda shop screen tests. But when producer David O. Selznick cast Jennifer Jones in Song of Bernadette, he simultaneously offered mentorship in champagne toasts that stretched until dawn. Robert Walker, home-rocking newborns, began washing loneliness down with bourbon, arriving at baton call sheets glassy-eyed and jittery. Jones, swept into Selznick's orbit, attended industry dinners where vintage Bordeaux flowed as freely as flattery. Walker tried to keep up, dragging co-stars to Chasen's after shoots, boasting that a few drinks would keep me warm till Jenny's back. His habit worsened. On Since You Went Away, he delivered lines through hiccups so audible editors sliced whole scenes. Meanwhile, Jones, now openly in love with Selznick, masked guilt behind claret-colored smiles, her own tolerance creeping higher. MGM publicity hid barroom brawls and Walker's overnight sanitarium stays, but word leaked. Leading man offers dried up, replaced by troubled soldier roles mirroring his reality. Their 1945 divorce was headline gold. Studio romance drowns in cocktails. Walker spiraled into nightclubbing oblivion, culminating in a sedative alcohol mix that killed him at 32. Jones married Selznick, yet critics noted her sparkle dimmed. She retreated between films, sedated nerves misread as aloofness. Their love story lingered too long, long enough to birth two children, shatter two careers, and prove that sometimes Hollywood's brightest futures dissolve in the bottom of a glass. Robert Mitchum and Dorothy Mitchum. When 22-year-old drifter turned extra Robert Mitchum married shy Pennsylvanian Dorothy Spence in 1940, he promised her a life of calm after the boxcars. Instead, she boarded a runaway train fueled by studio perks and bottom-shelf bourbon. Mitchum's breakthrough in Out of the Past paid for their rambling ranch in Calabasas, complete with a saloon-sized wet bar he nicknamed The Office. Nights started with one loosener, then rolled into tall glasses for the road, though the road never left the property. Dorothy poured shots to keep conversation flowing, terrified that sobriety might expose the long silences born of his affairs. By the 1950s, Mitchum's cowboy nonchalance masked blooming dependency. He'd show up to River of No Return call sheets unshaven, reeking of last night's rye, daring directors to fire him. They never did. Audiences loved his sleepy menace. But Dorothy paid the price, covering DUI court dates and bribing photographers to destroy incriminating negatives. When Mitchum's infamous 1948 marijuana bust resurfaced in interviews, he soothed nerves with double bourbons. She matched him sip for sip, convincing herself solidarity equaled security. As decades crawled by, Dorothy's liver faltered and Mitchum's legendary drawl thickened into gravel, limiting roles to grizzled cameos. Yet neither filed for divorce, love, or habit, no one could tell. At his 1997 bedside, Dorothy held a flask against trembling lips for one last toast. He croaked, "Here's looking at you, kid." The joke of a lifetime spent staggering through shadows. Their story proves a romance can survive 57 years, but too much bourbon ensures it limps rather than dances to the finish line. John Barrymore and Dolores Costello. The great profile's downward tilt. John Barrymore, Broadway royalty and Hollywood's great profile, met ingenue Dolores Costello on the set of The Sea Beast in 1925. She was 19 in porcelain, he 43 and already decanting lunch into chilled crystal. Their wedding glittered like Gatsby's lawn, yet even as cameras flashed, Barrymore swigged champagne from the bottle, muttering that bubbles steadied his nerves. Costello, smitten, tried matching flutes at first, but soon watched in horror as her husband traded scripts for speakeasy sofas. During Moby Dick, Barrymore arrived too soused to stand. Costello covertly rehearsed his lines at home, praying muscle memory would rescue takes. When Costello announced her first pregnancy, Barrymore vowed to dry out for the baby, lasting exactly 3 days before refilling the decanter. Studio bosses reduced his dialogue, framing close-ups to hide burst capillaries, while Costello placed cold spoons over swollen eyes so gossip columnists wouldn't catch midnight tears. By 1932, unpaid bar tabs outweighed box office bonuses. She begged him to retire. He answered with a week-long gin binge that ended in a public collapse outside Musso and Frank's. Newspapers splashed the image, and Warner Brothers quietly shelved their co-project, Long Lost Love. Costello filed for divorce in 1934, but devotion lingered. She sent fruit baskets to every detox clinic he entered, none accepted. Barrymore's final stage appearance ended with forgotten lines and uproarious audience pity. His exit in 1942 left Costello raising children alone, her own once promising career dimmed by years spent firefighting as hangovers. Their love story lasted too long, long enough to watch greatness drown in youthful hope wrinkle into resigned heartbreak. Tony Curtis and Janet Leigh, glamour, gin, and the impossibly long curtain call. Hollywood declared them America's sweethearts when Tony Curtis wed Janet Leigh in 1951. Two perfect profiles sealed with an on-camera kiss and a secret celebratory gin and tonic. Studios booked joint publicity tours that ended nightly in sweet-side ice buckets, overflowing with miniature bottles. Curtis insisted the cocktails loosened his Bronx anxieties. Leigh, anxious to shed her prim persona, joined in, so she'd never seem dull beside his Technicolor charisma. The pair rattled off box office hits, Houdini, The Vikings, but every triumph fueled curtain after-party binges that blurred into sunrise call sheets. Curtis's Quicksilver comic timing began slipping. During some like-it-hot rehearsals, director Billy Wilder growled about gin fog diction. Leigh kept photogenic composure, yet felt her star hue shifting. Casting agents whispered that motherhood and martinis muted her spark. Determined to keep pace, she shot Psycho on black coffee by day, Tom Collins by night. Hitchcock even joked the shower water smelled of juniper. Tabloids tasted blood when Curtis's rumored affairs surfaced. He drank harder, Leigh down, forgiveness martinis, and the marriage staggered onward, fueled by apologies mixed on the rocks. By their 1962 divorce, Curtis's once chiseled features looked puffy, and he slid into campy comedies while chasing sobriety through relapse. Leigh retreated from film for nearly a decade, haunted by exhaustion and whispers of Hollywood's saddest happy ending. Reflecting later, Curtis quipped, "We stayed together too long because the party never ended, until it did." Their romance reminds us that even picture-perfect love can overstay its welcome once gin replaces genuine connection. 15 love stories, 15 cautionary sonnets to overpoured affection. These couples clung past the applause, letting liquor stretch passion into parody and talent into tragedy. Remember their glamour, but remember their cost. Like, subscribe, and join us next time as we trade empty glasses for fresher, brighter Hollywood horizons.